Village of Wheeling regular meeting is now called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Argyris.
Here.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
Trustee Hein.
Here.
Trustee Heer.
Here.
President Avascado.
Here. Approval of the minutes of the meeting of June 18th.
So move.
Motion made by Trustee Argyris, second by Trustee Brady. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Heer.
Yes.
President Avascado.
Yes. Mr. Fondilis, any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam President.
We have no changes. We have no proclamations, appointments, and confirmations.
Okay, reappointments of commissioners. Arthur Eveling to Board of Health. Need a motion?
Yes.
Need a motion?
Do you need a motion for each one?
Yes. So move. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Heer, second by Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Heer.
Yes.
President Avascado.
Yes.
Donald Johnson to the Plan Commission.
So move. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Argyris,
Second.
second by Trustee Heer. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Heer.
Yes.
President Avascado.
Yes.
Terry Stylen, Plan Commission.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee
Hein.
Hein, second by Trustee Argyris. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Heer.
Yes.
President Avascado.
Yes.
George Delaney, Senior Commission.
Georgia.
Oh, I'm sorry, Georgia Delaney, Senior Commission.
So move. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Heer, second by Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Heer.
Yes.
President Avascado.
Yes.
Judith Edelstein to the Senior Commission.
So move. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Argyris, second by Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Heer.
Yes.
President Avascado.
Yes.
Dean Argyris, Chicago Executive Airport Board of Directors.
So move.
Motion made by Trustee Heer.
No, Hein. Trustee
Trustee Hein. Do I have a second?
Second. A lot of love in this room.
Oh, yeah, you could smell it all over, can't
A lot of love.
you? Second by Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
I got to abstain, I guess.
No, you can vote
You
for
can vote for
yourself.
I can
yourself.
vote?
Yes, you
You can
can.
vote for yourself.
Absolutely.
Sure, I'll vote for myself.
I would hope so.
Trustee Vogel.
I can vote no, though.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Heer.
Yes.
President Avascado.
Yes.
Maybe.
This evening, the reappointments of these commissioners, we just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to give back to this community. In order to have the community run, we can only do that by everyone working together, and we call that teamwork. And what is the best for this community. So we thank all of you, the Board of Health, the Plant Commission, Senior Commission, and the Chicago Executive Session, Chicago Executive Airport, for taking the time in your busy schedules and for accepting the reappointment. We do have, they're all signed, Clerk Simpson?
Yes.
We do have your certificates. If you would like, we would give them to you this evening, or we will send them to you. But I would like to have Trustee Argyris, please stand. And I think we'd like to do something and make sure that people know that they are appreciated. Just to send you something in mail, say thanks, have a good day. We all like to have a little appreciation. So
Give him a hug.
Wait, let me I just want to get, okay, that's me, okay.
and this
Go
would
that
be,
far.
excuse me?
Give him a hug.
I'll give you a hug.
Put the
I
mallet
thank you
down.
for all your hard labor and for being on the board. It is very important to us.
Thank you.
And Arthur? Mr. Everly, are you here this evening? Or do I give it to you tomorrow? Thank you, Art, for all your hard work. Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, Don, are you here this evening? And by the way, that was the Health Commission, and this is the Plan Commission. We thank you very much for all your hard work. And Mr. Stylen, please come forward. He's also the Plan Commission.
Sherry,
Brand new
the
member.
Ones for the senior center.
And thank you very much. Thank you. And anyone, and you have the other, Sherry, was there missing? What about Georgia? And Judith, since you do have them, I'd like you to stand, please. Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes people get embarrassed, they don't want to come up in front. That's why I made you stand tonight. And now we have an appointment of a commissioner.
Sandra Aristodemus.
So move.
Motion made by trustee Ajira,
Second.
second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Hare.
Yes.
President Everscotto.
Yes. And if Sandra would step forward, I believe you're here tonight, I hope. We would swear her in. Our Board of Health, all right, then we'll have to have it at another time because she needs to be sworn in before your next meeting. Please let her know that. Thank you. I'm sorry. Evidently, she had something else for her schedule, and that's okay. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Citizens' concerns and comments. Members of the general public may address the board with concerns or comments regarding relevant issues. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points. Do you want to add that, John, about not repeating?
Pardon?
Do you want to add the point? No?
We can
Okay.
handle it as we go through.
Okay. Craig Horwitz.
I have a question. My comments are regarding the presentation tonight on Philhaven. Wouldn't they be best served after the presentation?
We do comments, citizens' concerns and comments
At this
before.
time.
At this time. If you'd step forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Craig Horowitz. First of all, I don't live in Wheeling. I am a Buffalo Grove resident, but I certainly live near the project, and I'm very, very familiar with another development that Davari tried to erect in a closer plot of land in Arlington Heights. I have not been to, in person, the majority of the Plan Commission meetings, nor your last vote. I did watch it on TV. So I'm looking at a lot of documentation tonight. And I don't know whether this is all the relevant documentation, but it's enough documentation for me to feel needed to come here tonight. I'm going to start with a document that Jessica Burzak, who is familiar with me from the Bossier Place project, submitted to this village, approximately dated March 14th. And what it says in paragraph 3 is residents considered for Philhaven include adults, any sort of disabling condition that is serious enough to cause a disability but not so serious as to require institutional or supervised living. Anyone with a felony history would not be eligible. All residents will maintain leases and live independently. What I was struggling to find out was what the purpose of Philhaven. I've never really seen the entire packet, so I've been struggling with trying to figure out, is this a similar resident base to what Bossier was? And I'm not sure of it, but I think based on what I'm reading, based on the Plan Commission notes of April 12th, where the original ordinance was looking for an addition of residential support services. And one of the most outstanding comments is item number 3, support staff other than leasing office and maintenance staff is limited to a ratio of 1 for every 10 units at any time. So I'm assuming that this project was originally brought to this village as one where the residents required for either their security or the surrounding community security some on-site staff. Now, what it looks like on June 14th was that the variance for parking was eliminated because they decided to add all the covered parking, and the variance for the residential support services was dropped. So now you're being presented with basically tonight an apartment building. But as far as I know, and based on reading what I know, this is not an apartment building. Now, Ms. Burzak was quoted in the June 14th minutes when asked about on-site staff, and she was quoted, and I'm reading from minutes, that there will be a staff person present who lives there, will coordinate those activities. So I'm assuming again that this is a resident base similar to Bossier, but I'm not clear on that. And one of the things I hope tonight will come evident to this village is who are the residents, how are they going to be picked, how are they going to be supervised, because based on what I'm reading, it's not clear. Now, one of the things that I'm concerned about is this development if there's no on-site staff. With the immensity of it. Bossier Place was 36 units. This is far bigger. What I'm also concerned about as a taxpayer is the way that this development and Bossier Place is to be paid for. And everybody in this room is an Illinois taxpayer. Based on what I know, the Bossier Place project was going to be funded with Illinois tax credits. This project tentatively has a preliminary site and market assessment for the Illinois House Development Authority to get a 9% tax credit.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. Now, what's important here is that the Davari development included a $9 million tax credit for a project that included 36 units that averaged 300 to about 700 square feet. Now, in the village of Arlington Heights, you know what you can get for $250,000. It's quite a bit. Now, I don't know how this project is being financed, but if it's anything like Davari, as an Illinois taxpayer, that's my other opposition. So I hope tonight all these answers are brought out and the village does the right thing. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Leslie Brody.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Leslie Brody. I live on Phelps Avenue in Arlington Heights, Wheeling Township 70. I'm a proud original resident for 39 years and live 2.5 blocks away from the Hintz lot that we were just discussing. This morning I took a picture of the land because someone said previously it was an eyesore, and I wanted you to see for yourselves, without the trailer, just how beautiful it looks with large trees, beautiful green grass, wildflowers. It's magnificent as is. Jessica Burzak said she will give much-needed, high-quality housing on Hintz Road. I worked for Hintz Point Properties in the trailer on that same land, selling luxury $300,000 to $450,000 townhomes and condos. That is the definition of high quality. That development would have raised surrounding property values. The proposed subsidized low-income apartments for the mentally ill, including those having schizophrenia and who are bipolar, that housing DeVary wants to build would do the opposite and lower values for all, property values for all. Why? For one reason, it is a peace of mind and safety issue, because the reality is this: who here is reassured by National Alliance of Mental Illness Hugh Brady's statement that there is a high prospect for recovery for the residents? This means there will be a percentage who, it turns out sadly, are unable to handle living on their own in this environment. The fact is that people living in the vicinity would unnecessarily be put in jeopardy and harm's way, for no one on the board nor DeVory will be assisting every resident each day to take their medication every time. Even if there is one resident manager living on the premises handling 100 or more people, which is inadequate, Ms. Burzek has admitted in another statement that she is not sure how long funding will keep that person there. Residents would be unsupervised. I quote from Dr. Michael Roizen, quote, "If a person with schizophrenia forgets to take medication, they can have delusions or severe psychotic episodes. 75% of people with schizophrenia stop taking their medication within the first 2 years of leaving hospital and relapse. 2/3 of the DeVory residents will be unemployed, and it is only natural that they will walk our parks and go through our neighborhoods. Frankly, the concern is public safety, and safety should be a priority here for both the proposed residents in the building and the community. Similar facilities in the western and northern suburbs have residents afraid to send their children to public parks or walk to the store or be alone in the backyard. This is reality. Ms. Burzek is building Myers Place in Mount Prospect, which has the Mount Prospect Police Department kitty corner, or across from it, right there. Ms. Burzek is building Myers Place, stating it is the first project like this in the northwest suburbs, the first of its kind, the first. My friends, that is an experiment. Are you willing to risk people's security here over an experiment? And then what? When a tragedy happens, say, what a shame, we're so sorry. Let's wait. Let's wait and see how this other neighborhood does in Mount Prospect. Let's wait and see if property values are affected. And let's have more research, and in another 2 or 3 years, review again. What is the rush? Please, let us continue to have peace of mind. Peace of mind is priceless, and I implore you, don't take that away from us.
Thank you. Lynn Cripps?
Lynn Cripe.
Cripes, yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn Cripe. I am a client of the Alexian Brothers Transitional Living Program. Before I got accepted into TLP, I didn't know what to do. I felt so hopeless to the point I was consumed by my depression and began to feel that suicide was the only way out. I felt this way because I didn't believe help was out there. I didn't think good-hearted people even existed anymore. I felt like I would just end up on the streets to suffer until I'd finally give up. But then a miracle occurred. The Alexian Brothers Transitional Living Program took me in and gave me back the hope I had lost. And ever since then, the staff have worked with me and helped me to become the person I am today. Thanks to these wonderful people, I am no longer hopeless, because I've been given a second chance. And during my stay at TLP, I have made more progress than I ever thought I would. So believe me when I say that treatment works. Treatment works. Right now, there are others out there who feel lost and hopeless as I did, and this is why we need more housing. We need to let those people know that help is here, that they can get a second chance at life, because if we don't help them, then who will? Who will they turn to We can't let those people give up on life. And it's not right to discriminate against those of us with mental illness only because some of you fail to understand what it is. I would like to encourage others to educate themselves about mental illness and try to realize that we're not bad people, we just need help. We need more housing, and it's something I can't stress enough. Please give those with a mental illness a second chance at life. That is all I ask. Thank you.
Lionel LeBeau.
French name is hard to be able to pronounce. My name is Lionel LeBeau, and I've been a resident of the area for 50-some years. I'm the father of 3 children, 2 of whom went successfully to college. And the middle child, unfortunately, was learning disabled and eventually became very seriously mentally ill. He deals with depression and schizophrenia. He is now in the early 50s, and his dad is getting old at 82. In a way, his life has been very difficult. Living with serious mental illness is not easy. He has a wonderful mother and a wonderful father and supportive brother and sister. But it was very, very difficult. Thank heavens he got the help from the Election Brothers Center for Mental Health. And through the counselors and through him being serious about taking his medications, he's extremely able to do this. He's very bright. He's brighter than I am. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with mental illness, IQ doesn't mean anything. Now, in my old age, he's finding himself. Because one of the good things, if there's anything good in dealing with mental illness, is as you get older, life becomes easier. And you feel better, and the tension is lessened. He finally has accepted the fact that he's not able to work. Many people who deal with serious mental illness are able to work. He would work for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he would be back in the hospital because the symptoms came back, and he could not work. I understand mental illness profoundly because I have lived with it, and so has my wife. My wife is not here now because taking care of our son has taken its toll on her. So I told her to stay home tonight. But I do feel that I appreciate greatly your attacking this problem, because food and support and medication is very vital for the person dealing with major mental illness. But a place to call your own is wonderful. So my wife and I sacrificed a lot of the enjoyable things. My wife is French, and we used to travel to France together. We haven't been able to do that for the last 15 years, and we realize now it's too late. It's too difficult for us to travel. But fortunately, with the telephone today not being expensive, long distance is not expensive, my wife can visit with her family in France. I just want to quickly finish this. My son has made wonderful progress. He lives alone. We bought a condo for him. He's lived there for the last 22 years. He's a good neighbor. He's a real success for good, proper care for a person who deals with major mental illness. So I hope that you will make a serious effort to provide this housing for people. The young lady that just spoke was talking from her heart. You can't imagine how she appreciates what we hope will do for other people like her. So I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity. I think it's God's work. People dealing with mental illness are not the monsters that sometimes are presented. I assure you, I would be happy for you to meet my son. But tonight, that's not possible. So I thank you very much, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
Mary Kruger.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and village leadership, and concerned citizens in the room. I am Mary Kruger, and I live at 3215 Jackson Drive, Arlington Heights, Village of Wheeling proper. I would like to start by sharing the thoughts and concerns of my neighbors, Rich and Mary Godley, who could not be here this evening. From Rich: I apologize that I could not be here tonight. I'm attending a memorial service. This meeting is very important to me, and I am unwavering in my opposition of the Phil Haven development. Well, here we go again. Whether you are for or against DeVary's development of Phil Haven, the fact that we are back here tonight should make one thing clear. It's not about the proposed tenants or the surrounding neighborhoods. It's all about the money. Over the last several weeks, my wife Mary and I have been meeting with many of our neighbors, some of whom you will hear from tonight. They will be addressing issues such as the hazardous nature of Hintz Road, how DeVary has negatively impacted our community both locally and in the press, citizens' concerns about flooding, and finally, the Village of Wheeling R4 multifamily dwelling municipal code that was defended by you, the trustees, the last time we were all here. My personal issue is that, under oath, Jessica Burzak stated that DeVary's ideal location would be a quiet residential street. Boger Place did indeed fit that criterion. Hintz Road, an IDOT declared hazardous road, simply does not. My perception is that DeVary's ideal location is whichever location they are currently pursuing. The Village of Arlington Heights refused to be bullied by this developer, defended their zoning code, and won. We encourage the Village of Wheeling to do the same. Thank you for your time, Rich Godley. And on behalf of Mary Godley, Mary sent each of you an email at almost 11 p.m. this past Saturday. I'm not sure if you all got a chance to see it, but she posed many questions that she would have hoped that you could reflect on before tonight's meeting. But most importantly, she cited 2 sections of the Village of Wheeling's comprehensive plan from 2003. Page 96 of this plan states, quote, "Wheeling has a substantial stock of affordable housing in comparison to its neighbors. What the village lacks is housing desirable to higher income buyers and the move-up market," end quote. Page 97, quote, "This means decreasing the percentage of rental housing in multifamily units and increasing the percentage of owner-occupied single-family houses. Hintz Point, originally approved for this piece of land, was to be high-end owner-occupied housing. Please vote no to this project. It's not the right project for this property. Respectfully, Mary Godley." And now for my own issues. That said, I'd like to share my concerns regarding, as Rich outlined, the hazardous nature of Hintz Road. First, just last week, July 9th, at roughly 6:30 p.m., there was yet another serious accident at the corner of Waterman and Hintz. It was a 3-car collision with injuries for which both Arlington Heights and Wheeling Police and Fire Departments responded. The injured did require ambulatory care. My new friend and neighbor, Anne-Marie Lundstrom, who you will hear from this evening, has done extensive data gathering supporting the dangerous nature of Hintz Road. She's provided you with documentation from IDOT that confirms that the stretch of Hintz Road that this development would be located is considered a Type 4 hazardous roadway. Through the process of assigning points per hazard present, i.e. speed, volume, grade of the students walking to schools, whether or not sidewalks or traffic signals exist, among other criterion, that stretch of Hintz Road scores a whopping 16.5. A point total of 12 or greater qualifies for Type 4 multiple hazard classification under the IDOT School Code Section 556.160. She even confirmed this data as recently as July 11th with Jim Stoner from IDOT. It's also important to note that between Windsor Drive / North Buffalo Grove Road and Schoenbeck Road, the daily traffic volume is 19,000. If this stretch of road on which the Phil Haven facility is proposed to be located is considered unsafe for our school-aged children, how can it be considered safe for the proposed special needs tenants of Phil Haven? Please maintain your May 21st disapproval of this development at this location on the basis of safety. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Phil Mostico.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and concerned citizens. My name is Phil Mustachio, and I am a 25-year resident of Jackson Drive in Wheeling. Once again, I would like to thank the Village of Wheeling for allowing a forum like this and giving us representation that we did not have in the past under Cook County. This evening, I would like to address perception, mainly the perception that the neighbors around this proposed development have no compassion for the mentally disabled and no understanding of their community. I'm insulted by this concept. Many of the people in our area deal with developmentally challenged individuals, either in their work, in their volunteer positions, or in their own homes. We get it. When you come in here with your stories of your family members that will benefit this facility, we understand your needs. You want a safe place for your loved one to live independently along with other people with the same challenge. You want sufficient supervision in a place that they can socialize and be part of the community. You ain't going to get that here. This facility does not meet those needs. It's too large, it's under-supervised, it's on a busy road without enough economic support and insufficient transportation for the up to 150 people that may be residing there. I also see with state budgets being cut every day. I would like to know what's going to be done with this facility if it does lose funding. These facilities should be smaller, they should be in quieter areas, but there's no profit in that. Make no mistake, Davari Development is a profit company looking to put these units in the suburbs like their own ATM machines, relying on the taxpayers to foot the bill without regard for the people that are living in their buildings. There are other locations to place a smaller, well-run building, but this must be a great piece of land because here we are again. Your family members deserve better. I do not know how to give them better, but saying that this is better than nothing is an insult to your loved ones, it's an insult to yourselves, and it's an insult to the community that's going to be saddled with a building that does not have a clear future. The property is zoned R4 multifamily. This project does not meet that zoning. Before this, we had Hints Point okay to go. There was little opposition to Hints Point because of the correct zoning and the fact that those people would be paying taxes, and we don't know what the future owners of this building are going to come back to the village and ask for a change in the tax requirements. I'd like to see the entire village board vote down this proposal. It didn't work the last time, and it doesn't smell any better today. Thank you very much for your time.
Mark Collier.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and concerned citizens. My name is Mark Colliander. I am a 20-year resident of Wheeling, currently living on Jackson Drive. I would like to propose that the village board consider a total moratorium on any building in the area of the Phil Haven project until the flooding on Jackson Drive and Lakeside Villas has been resolved. It is tough to talk about flooding when we are in our worst drought since the Dust Bowl. But this will pass, and we will be underwater again, waiting for answers. In the meetings in the last several years about the flooding, it was recommended that more land be acquired for water retention. The Hints Road project site was one of those parcels recommended. I do not know if this is the answer to our problems, and I am aware that the project will include some water storage. However, if this project is okayed, we have lost one possible solution. to our growing problem. As was stated in the last village board meeting involving the designers for DeVary Development Group, LLC, used a 1980 Mackey study on the water problem rather than using the 2009 flood analysis prepared for the village by Christopher Burke Engineering Limited. When the 1980 study was done, there were 9 fewer homes on Jackson Drive. Brook Run townhouses were not built, and Ashford Drive was not developed. All these projects produce stormwater that runs into Lakeside Villas and then is pumped onto Jackson Drive. While the community acknowledges that DeVary is only responsible for their own water retention, it is the village of Wheeling that is responsible for the overall water problem in the area. The pumping trough that was installed is better than nothing, but it relies on overtime village workers manning pumps around the clock when they could be out working other projects or home off of our payroll. Water retention is the answer, so please vote no to this proposal so we don't build ourselves into a corner with no way to fix the bigger problem. Thank you for your time.
Anne Marie?
She had a lesson.
Lyndon, let her say it.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees. I am Anne Marie Lundstrom, 2644 North Waterman, Arlington Heights, second house from the corner of Hinson Waterman. I am very confused about Phil Haven, and I know I'm not alone. The builder, DeVary Development Group, LLC, later referred to as DeVary, is requesting to build a low-income development for mentally and physically disabled persons. They originally asked for a variance to the R4 multifamily zoning code, which included a text amendment describing the residential support services that will be available to their tenants. Tonight, they are before you declaring none of that in writing. At the April 12th meeting of the Plan Commission, Mr. Friedland, the attorney for DeVary, suggested that he would just take the text amendment for on-site services away, and it would be a permitted use. But the village attorney, Mr. Ferrello, expressed concern that there was an entire evening of sworn testimony about what Phil Haven was and what services it provides and why on-site services were needed there. Mr. Ferrello stated that sworn testimony was made by the client and Mr. Friedland himself. Again, I am confused. On one day, DeVary needed a text amendment describing their services, and tonight they don't need it at all. The only documented evidence of the services they provide was in the denied text amendment describing residential support services. These are, and I quote from the original text amendment, services provided by case managers and social workers to residents of multifamily dwellings that are intended to help maintain housing stability. Services include, but are not limited to, assistance in housing retention, lease compliance, and mobility/transportation, vocational support and training, socialization, wellness, and money management. There was a subpoint that mentioned that office space for these services would not exceed 1% of the total floor space. Having said that, Jessica Burzak, Vice President of DeVary, stated at the Plan Commission meeting of June 14th that the on-site services will still be provided, just not in any offices on-site. Jessica stated, as clarification for Commissioner Pam Dorban, that there will be no on-site residential support services, but there will be an on-site resident manager that will live in the building and be on call 24 hours a day. This person will handle 50 units for the potential 100 to 150 residents. One person for 50 units. I wonder what this person's qualifications are. We never did get an answer to that question. The Phil Haven development does not fit properly into the R4 multifamily residential district. It is a special use. I cannot live there. In fact, most of us cannot live there because we do not qualify. The development specifies it is for people with mental and physical disabilities who qualify for low-income housing. This sounds special to me. If the residents truly need the services that were originally requested and this development is approved tonight, I believe this project will be set up to fail. By the sworn testimony, it is a development that needs to have all of the proposed services that these qualifying tenants who would live in this dependent living environment, and those providers need to be professionals trained in these services. How can they provide these services if this property is not zoned to allow them? Why isn't that what we are offering to the tenants? Why is it not considered special use? It is disappointing to me that after all the time put in vetting this developer, we are still confused about intentions. In the Wheeling Title 19 zoning code, there is a section for special use, section 191030. This property is not zoned for special use. This code also has a section regarding interpretation, section 19230. It states under item B, conflict with other regulations, and I quote, whenever the requirements of the title conflict with the requirements of any other lawfully adopted laws and ordinances, the most restrictive or that imposing the higher standards shall govern. End of quote. It is obvious that the Village of Wheeling Board of Trustees understands that this development must be held to the highest standards with regard to zoning. The Wheeling Village Zoning Code is there for the protection of the village and the residents of the village, as well as neighboring and adjacent villages. Please stand by your village zoning code and vote no. Thank you.
Hugh Brady.
Good evening. My name is Hugh Brady. I live at 272 Jules Road in Inverness. I am the co-president of the Northwest Suburban Task Force on Supportive Housing for Individuals with Mental Illness. And we are the community group that has been strongly supporting the Phil Haven development. A couple of things that I'd like to mention that one of the previous speakers talked about. Permanent supportive housing of this nature is not an experiment. It's been widely tested across the country. Researchers and clinicians regard it as best practice. It's the best way to house people with mental illness and other disabilities. Another speaker brought up the concern about violence and threats to the community. And again, there are all sorts of studies and documentation that show that people with mental illness who are getting treatment are no more violent than the general public. And in fact, the people that would live in Phil Haven have to pass a criminal background check. That's not true of any other kind of housing development. So if the original Hints Point development had been put in, the people moving in there would not have been subject to criminal background checks, and there would be no safeguards whatsoever on those people. Finally, in my role as president of the board of NAMI Illinois, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, I've toured many projects similar to this. I've visited projects like this in Decatur, in Chicago. There are others in Romeoville that I visited, in Chicago, the North Shore, Northbrook, Skokie, and other places. Even downstate Metropolis has a development like this. It's down in the Ohio River. And it's quite common when a project like this comes before the village board or city council for residents, neighbors to be very upset and concerned and so on. And you've heard them speak tonight, or several of them speak tonight. But what happens when a project like this is built is everybody is good neighbors. That the fears of the neighbors are not realized, and that the residents are not a threat. That the residents are good neighbors, and the project is a success. So finally, DeVary is asking for no zoning variances, as you know. Their plan was approved by the Plan Commission, so we can't see a good reason to vote against it. So we hope you will vote yes and welcome the future residents into Wheeling. Thank you.
Mark Wexler.
Good evening. My name is Mark Wexler. I have resided near Hintz and Schoenbeck roads for the past 27 years. My two children have attended Wheeling High School. I am deeply involved and committed to this community. The issue here is very clear. Does the Village of Wheeling make its decisions based on facts or based on emotion? Will elected trustees fulfill their responsibility and represent the will of the people? Or will it bow to the self-serving profit motive or threat of lawsuit? Fact. The residents of this development would be virtually unsupervised. Fact. There can be no compromise of the safety of young children at a nearby daycare center. Fact. People without jobs loiter. People who loiter often commit crimes and damage property. Fact. Hintz Road, with 4 busy lanes of speeding vehicles, is a risk to those of us with no disabilities. It is an invitation to injury and perhaps death to a minimally supervised, mentally or physically disabled person. Fact. There is insufficient, frequent public transportation. At certain times during the day, according to the published schedule, a PACE number 234 bus route rider may have to wait in excess of an hour for a bus on a nearly 100-degree day like today or a 0-degree day in the winter. Fact. Residents may be removed from their current familiar settings in Chicago or elsewhere. This residence will not solely help Wheeling residents or their family members. Fact. People with these types of chronic illnesses need professional and continuous supervision. Fact. There can be absolutely no risk taken with regard to the vulnerable young students of nearby elementary or high schools. Fact. Location, location, location. This proposed location will likely foster crime, threaten the safety of our children, decrease property values, and change the serenity of our neighborhood. Phil Haven can be a source of local pride, but not at this location. It is the obligation of society and the fortunate among us to help the less fortunate, those who are widows, those who are orphans, those who are sick. Maintenance of human dignity must be a priority of our culture, but not at this location. Our hearts sincerely go out to those families with members who have a physical or mental illness. They need a place to live and a place to call home, and deserve a place to be cared for, but not at this location. Conceptually, Phil Haven can be a blessing to many. Phil Haven can be a good neighbor and an institution that the community can be proud of, but not at this location. Thank you.
Susan Gallo Schaefer.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and village leadership. My name is Susan Gallo Schaefer. I'm not from Inverness, I'm from Wheeling. I live on Longtree, not far from the corner of Schoenbeck and Hintz. I think there's a big misunderstanding here. We're not discriminating against mental illness. This area is not zoned for this purpose. There are 5 other districts in the village that could support a facility like Phil Haven. DeVere wants to put a vulnerable class of people right in the middle of an area that is not zoned for that. That's probably why it's zoned the way it is. DeVere wants us to believe they want to put this group home for mentally or physically handicapped for their good and independence. DeVere wants to drop these people off in a neighborhood with minimal public transportation, no train, not close to government offices or services, no offices on site, no caseworkers on site, and reap the profits. Even Myers Place has staff on site to provide case management services, vocational support to locate jobs, and substance abuse services. It's like DeVere will say anything just to get the approval. Oh, fine, we won't have offices on site or anybody there to help these residents. And I don't buy that argument that they'll watch over each other. If you are mentally ill or physically challenged, then you can't take care of somebody else. As a homeowner, taxpayer, voter, and citizen of this community, Wheeling, I wonder why DeVere is refusing to take no for an answer and why they are so insistent on this location that is not zoned for this purpose, and why aren't they focusing on areas that are zoned for this purpose? DeVere wants to make a profit at the expense of these vulnerable people, appeal to the community's emotion, and do away with services that are probably needed just to get the approval and make the profit. It would be egregious to just change our zoning for the profit of DeVere and not the best interest of these mentally challenged people. Thank you.
Joe Feud. I might be pronouncing this. Oh, there he is.
He knows.
Selling this for $20 if you want water. Good evening. Get my stuff here. My name is Joe Fent. I come from the western suburb of Western Springs. I'm 55 years old and have been mentally ill for over 32 years. I'm bipolar depressive with an anxiety cluster comprised of panic disorder, OCD, and PTSD. As a result, I stay in a depressed state most of the time. The mood swings began after college, and as you may know, don't let up. Evidently, I was born with lousy genetics and had to endure abuse from my father, verbal, emotional, physical, whatever. I'm on 6 psychotropic drugs and in treatment weekly. I no longer have the ability to work full-time, so I do part-time caregiving for the elderly. It's hard to watch the U.S. Congress play around with Medicare, Medicaid, health insurance, and other things I consider crucial to live. If it were not for Social Security, disability, and Medicare, I'd be on the street. Right now, I live by myself in a small apartment that is part of a 12-unit building. I've been there for 8 long years and have made almost no friends from that building. Were I to land an apartment in Philhaven, the scales would be tilted in my favor. I would be willing to wager that I make at least a half-dozen friends the first week I'm there. I'm a people person, I'm not a loner. After a good 10 hospitalizations, it's easy to see that consumers get along best in a group, not isolated to themselves. Every psychiatric unit I've been on contained a day room for gathering the patients together. This design allows for the building of friendships, camaraderie, sharing, and gives the unit a sense of warmth, something my current apartment building lacks terribly. I hope I'm lucky enough to be chosen for Philhaven. It would be a small step for me and a giant leap for my mental health. I urge this august body in the strongest terms possible to allow for supportive housing in your village. I beg of you to let this building be built. It would give a lot of people a means of independence that they've never experienced, while at the same time allowing for camaraderie and friendships to take place. Thank you.
Sheila Schultz.
Sheila Schultz, excuse me, 393 South Meadowbrook Lane, Wheeling. You have heard me before speak on this subject, so I will spare you a lengthy talk. I wish that there were time to fact-check the facts, because I'm going to reiterate my position on this with what I know to be facts, with what the plan commissioners know to be facts, what staff know to be facts, and what you in your hearts know to be facts. Philhaven will fill a real need for Wheeling residents and others. that need is not going to go away. It's continuing to increase. The success of similar housing is well proven. DeVere Development has an established record of quality construction and management with 40 years of experience in this field and has successfully completed over 25 similar housing developments. Their partners are well-respected providers of support services in our area, and much has been said about lack of support services. That would not be the case. Kenneth Young Center has a 40-year history as a community-based, not-for-profit organization. Alexian Brothers is a not-for-profit healthcare system dedicated to meeting the health and housing needs of individuals and families throughout the area. The development has gone through extensive scrutiny, as you know, hours and hours and hours. The building on Hintz Road would be a valuable asset to the village for many, many reasons. It would increase the value of our tax base. It would be a valuable addition to our existing housing opportunities. It would fit well into the Hintz Road residential area by filling a long vacant parcel adjacent to Lakeside Villas with an attractive building and landscape that will be environmentally and aesthetically pleasing. These are many, many benefits that Philhaven would provide to the village. The greatest of which is to provide supportive housing for our own residents and others who are on the road to recovery and would benefit from this. You've heard from some of those. I know you've heard out on the street for many more, as I have. In the light of all that you've heard, all the hours that you and the staff and the Plan Commission have spent on this, I know it's hard to resist the fear factor, and I have to call it that, the fear of the flooding, the fear of the traffic, the fear. I'm convinced that this would be a safe, well-managed facility that would be a real asset to the village of Wheeling. I urge you to support this. I would also like to mention, there was mention of transportation, and there is a gentleman here, a representative of PACE, if you have any questions on that score. Thank you.
Robert Sklar? You'll pass. Mr. Klotecki?
I feel like Steve Tilo. Madam President, trustees, I'm here to talk about a different issue, but an issue that was made important to me by a former trustee who's no longer with us. I'm hoping tonight you will look at the four corners on Dundee and Milwaukee and finish the project. We can't leave it vacant. It looks terrible. We can't give it away because then it ruins the whole corners. All the corners, excuse me. All I'm asking you, I don't care what your decision is going to be tonight. I don't care if you go with the original plan. I don't care if you remove the clock. All I'm asking you is to finish the project. You have other important issues, so I'm going to limit myself to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stavros?
Where are you?
Where is he?
We'll get these out. Maybe let's go three more, I think. One, two more. Two more.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, Mr. Ferrillo. I represent David Becker, Wheeling Auto Center located at 2430 East Hintz Road in Arlington Heights, but it's Wheeling. They right next, and they adjoin the property here, which is the subject of the site plan approval tonight. I'm also an attorney of 34 years, and I own property in this town. I'm a businessman, and my office is in Wheeling. And I'd like to speak on two issues, one for my client and also myself. I was a member of the Northwest Mental Health Center for 16 years on the board of directors before it was acquired by Lexington Brothers Hospital. I personally have a soft spot for mentally challenged individuals, and Mr. Becker shares that same feeling. But unfortunately, this location is not the location for that development. Now, there's a saying, you know, that maybe that there's a time and a place for every business in this village. This may be the time for this type of development, but it's not the place. Now, what's changed since the May 21st, 2012? My client and I have discussed that. There's no map amendment, and really, you know, Phil Haven's attorney should be complimented for bringing this matter before the board again, because every good lawyer has a backup plan, and that's what this is. On June 21st, Judge Shader in federal court dismissed the lawsuit brought by Phil Haven against the Village of Arlington Heights for their denial of, or similar development based on not granting the ordinances for variations based on discrimination and other allegations, and Judge Shader found that the village was in its rights to do that. Well, under the municipal code, as you all know, you have 90 days to file a lawsuit against the village for any action denying a zoning use or a variance use, which affects the property, the landowner. Well, that 90-day period hasn't run yet. But since that lawsuit was decided June 21st, they're back now before the board on the backup plan, what I call it. They're saying, you know, we have an R4 zoning, we're entitled to to multifamily, and that's what we're going to do. Well, they're right. They have a right to have a multifamily use if it's purely a multifamily use, and that's not what this is. This is the same horse but of a different color. And you can't be swayed by the fact that there's a petition for site plan approval when you have to look behind what the use of this project is going to be. And if the use of this project is really going to be a form of an assisted living use, then it has to be zoned that way, and it has to fit within the characteristics of the surrounding land uses. It can't adversely impact on the surrounding land use values or the public interest, its welfare. There are standards for special use that have to be met, and that's not what's before this board tonight. So I would ask on behalf of my client that the action that the board took on May 21st be upheld. I mean, this is simply, in essence, an appeal of what the board has already denied. And nothing, in my opinion, has changed, nor in my client's opinion has changed. And again, this isn't an act by the board to discriminate against the mentally challenged. This is an action by the board to follow its own rules, its zoning code, its own ordinances. It's not a reflection on any person in this room or any person with a special illness or a mental deficiency. It's what is right. This is not the location for this project. And I have to agree, there is a need for this project, but not at this location. So on behalf of my client, myself, I'd ask that the board deny this request and stand firm on this decision that entered on May 21st, 2012. Thank you.
Gary Weintraub, is he?
Gary's in.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Staff reports, Public Works Director Tony Stavros.
Thank you, Madam President. Village of Wheeling residents have been receiving solicitation letters regarding utility insurance coverage for water and sewer service lines for their properties. These solicitations, some of which are styled in notices of payment, can be confusing and misleading to residents. And I have to say that they are not endorsed by the Village of Wheeling. Water service lines run from the home to the point of connection to the public water main. Any issues pertaining to these lines, such as lines freezing in the wintertime, for example, are the responsibility of the homeowners. However, the majority of issues that cover the are related to leaking or is not part of that insurance. Inoperable B-boxes are the responsibility of the Village of Wheeling. In 95% of the cases, any problem with the water service line will be the roundway or what we call the B-box curb stop, which is not the homeowner's responsibility. Sewer lines that run from the home to point of connection with public sewer main, issues pertaining to these lines such as blockage, debris, tree roots, for example, are the responsibility of homeowners. If homeowners have clay service lines, they're more likely to experience tree root infiltration or collapsed tiles. Newer homeowners with PVC sanitary sewer service lines are less likely to have issues. The village highly recommends that homeowners carefully read these insurance agreements and make sure that they fully understand what coverage is included and excluded. Ultimately, it is the proactive of the homeowners to enter into any utility insurance agreement that may with regards to being worthwhile, but the experience of village staff suggests that problems specifically with homeowner water lines seldom occur. Just want to make that statement clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Economic Development Director Peter Ventopoulos.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to highlight an upcoming regional job fair being hosted by the Illinois Department of Employment Security and some allied agencies that will be occurring at the Sears Center Arena in Hoffman Estates next Friday from 1 till 5:30 p.m. It is a free event for job seekers. They are still seeking employers to host the event. We've shown the phone number on the slide to the Arlington Heights office of IDES. And the number is 800-244-5631 for anyone who has any questions about this event.
Could you repeat that phone number again, please, Peter?
Certainly. The number is 800-244-5631.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also a reminder, the Canadian National Railroad Company is planning to replace the railroad crossing on Dundee Road between Reeling Road and Northgate Parkway. We're going to remind you continually the construction, which they tell us, will necessitate the closing of Dundee Road at the crossing. Currently, the closure schedule is for August 3rd through August 10th. Detour signs will be placed at strategic locations to route traffic around this area by utilizing nearby main routes. So be aware, August 3rd through August 10th, if all goes as directed by them, this road will be closed in that area, so you'll have to go all the way around in order to get back to, say, this end of town. Thank you. Consent agenda?
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Agiris, second by Trustee Brady. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
President Avascado?
Yes.
Okay. New business, item 13A, resolution waiving competitive bidding requirements and accepting a proposal from Schlakey's Brothers for the construction of the Clock Tower Park on the southwest corner of Milwaukee Avenue and Dundee Road.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made. Do we have any questions?
Questions?
Motion by Trustee, question by Trustee Hein.
Thank you.
Motion.
It was at the last meeting, the special meeting that we had on June 25th that we discussed this particular topic, and a vote was taken, and the item was denied because of the fact it needed a 2/3 vote on a particular item. And it's back on the agenda again. I'd like to have a clarification on the I thought once something was brought before this board and it was refused, it was denied, that it would, why is it back up here again?
Mr. Ferrillo?
There is a change to the proposal at this point, which allows us to reconsider it, and the details of that change can be addressed. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The lettering and the lighting have been removed from the change back to the original request from the proposal from 3 months ago.
Well, that's well and good, but we have exactly the same documentation before us that we had before, except for a wall with some lettering on it, and that has been discussed before. I think that we should be trying to complete this corner and make it something that we all can be proud of. However, because of the logistics of what's happening on the corner, and we actually can see the building is up, the signs are up, the bus shelters are up, all the things are in place over there except for what we have to do to the corner. And I'm afraid that it's going to look like a hodgepodge over there with all those walls and all the separations, and it's going to take away from a commercial business who's trying to do business there. We do have a sign there that gives out the time and temperature quite often, and we're looking to put up a clock. It makes no sense for me to spend $129,000 for a clock when we have the size of a large theater screen, giving that out quite a few times within a 5-minute period. If this is going to stay on the agenda, I, for one, would like to have the clock tower removed and the walls that are separating the area, and become a park where citizens can sit on a bench and contemplate running across Dundee Road before they get hit by a car.
Such elegance.
Aesthetically pleasing is what we have there now. We have an aesthetically pleasing building. I'm not too fond of that very large sign, but it's there. I can't take it down. But I would like the clock tower to be replaced by something else that is more beneficial to the residents of the village of Wheeling. I'm not going to be looking 2 different ways to see what the time and temperature is, and then have the opportunity to see a clock tower that's been custom made for that corner. It makes no sense. Don't get me wrong, I also want to finish that corner like the rest of the corners, but it's got to be something that can be used by the citizens of Wheeling. Thank you.
Trustee Agiris, you have something before I give you the second in the roll call?
Well, since the question was raised and it came back with the $13,000 change, I guess the question I have is, do we have the opportunity to do option A or B?
Sure, there can be a motion to remove. I'm assuming A would be with the clock, B would be without the clock?
Well, we have a motion on the floor right now. We just accepted those questions.
We do have a motion on the floor that you can withdraw if the maker wishes to withdraw it, or you can take the vote.
All right. And the motion was made by Trustee Brady?
Nope.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Motion by Trustee Brady and a second by Trustee Lang.
Second stance.
So we will have roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
No.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
President Abascato?
Yes.
Passes.
What a shame.
Thank you.
Item 13B, Ordinance granting site plan and appearance approval for the construction of a new multifamily residential building at 2418-2422 Hints Road to be 1450 West Hints Road, docket number PC 12-19.
Mr. Janik? Or would we go forward? Do you have any comment, Mr. Janik?
I have no comments, just a general comment. Petitioners are here tonight requesting approval of a 50-unit multifamily structure along Hints Road.
Thank you. Would you state your name and your address?
Larry Pusateri. My address is 900 West Jackson Boulevard in Chicago.
And Steve Friedland with law offices in Chicago at 626 West Jackson, representing the developer.
Thank you. Do you have your comments? Do you have something?
Yes, sure. Thank you. We'd like to express our thanks for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. As I mentioned, I'm Larry Pusateri. I'm one of the co-owners of the Very Development. We apologize for Jessica Burzak not being able to attend and provide a continuity in our presentation, but she's out of state this evening. We just want to articulate that our proposal before you tonight is in conformity with the zoning, in our opinion, that is appropriate for the site. We've removed any request, any parking variance request. We are now compliant in terms of the number of parking spaces we're providing. We've added the covered parking as required by the ordinance, and we've removed the on-site social services space on the property in order to also be compliant. Those are the only changes since our last submittal. We're certainly here and available to answer any questions about any specifics of our proposal or any questions at all you may have about the development. Thank you.
And if I might just add, one thing that we had expected the last time we were before you was, this is a request for site plan and appearance review, and I do this in other places, and this is not an uncommon process. We would expect to talk with you about the site plan and the appearance of the development. That's what we would expect to discuss. So we're certainly here and prepared to do that. We obviously hear the comments from the community, and this is a process that has started in February. We've been before your Plan Commission on numerous occasions. We've met with your staff. Your staff has issued numerous staff reports to both the Plan Commission and to you. And we just ask that you rely on your staff in interpreting this, your own zoning ordinance. As Mr. Janik just stated, it's a request for a multifamily dwelling building. That's the way your staff has presented it. That's the way we've presented it. And while we certainly understand that people from the community can come and speak, that's the zoning that this property is zoned for, is an independent multifamily apartment building, and that's what's being presented. We're certainly happy to talk with you about some of the aspects of the building if that's important to you, but we also would expect that if you, for example, do not like the site plan, that you please discuss with us why you don't like the site plan so that we can consider making changes or alternatives. We obviously went through many hearings with your Plan Commission. They were very patient. They gave us a lot of feedback, and they've presented some conditions on their approval that we were fine with. But we certainly want to start talking about those issues because that's what we believe we're here for.
Trustee Brady, you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. So what is the difference between what you're presenting tonight and what was presented prior?
Just the three things we mentioned. So we have full parking now in terms of the number of parking required by the ordinance. We have the 50% covered parking as required by the ordinance, and we removed the space for an on-site social service office. It's no longer included in our plans. Those are the only three changes.
First of all, it appears that the independent living program under the supervision of Kenneth Young Group and Election Brothers Hospital is still part of this development. Is that so?
No. Well, to Larry's point again, the changes to the development are those activities were never part of the development on site, the Alexian Brother and Kenneth Young facility. There was provision for case managers who could be on site in offices at the facility. And through conversations with your staff, it was determined that Wheeling believed that use would require an amendment to your code, which is why we requested that amendment, which, as you know, this board was not interested in considering. So none of those activities with respect to case management that would occur in an office in the building are going to occur in this development. People will live in an independent apartment unit, and those people will have available to them supportive services. Those services are not mandatory. If someone wants to seek those supportive services, they will be available through these other service providers, but that will not be occurring on site.
So I take that as a yes, that Alexian Brothers and Kenneth Young are still going to be involved in the management of this project. And, you know, and what I'm getting at is they're going to be assigning their clients apartments in this building under their watchful eye, under the program, whatever it is that they help these people. And I'm not against that. I don't think anybody here is against that. These people need help. They need, even if it's just some counseling periodically, you know, and I understand what the whole program is about. You know, I have some folks I know that have relatives that would probably fit the criteria that we've heard back in the original testimony on the type of clients that can be housed here and the type of help that they can enjoy and is needed. You know, but you know, although you've removed the offices, you're still going to have multiple staff who will come and go at various hours. Plus, you stated there's a staff person present who lives there to coordinate certain activities. Also, a live-in manager will be present. So you are going to have staff there.
Let me give you some clarity on what's going to be the staffing pattern. So the on-site will have a live-in management representative who will be there for after-hours emergency response. That's the only site that will be on staff. We'll have also off-site, the Alexian Brothers and Kenneth Young Center will bring services to the tenants at their locations, their office locations. Just to clarify, they're not going to be in a position to determine who's going to be living in the building. It'll be through an application process where individual tenants will be reviewed for appropriateness for the development. So it's not going to be that they'll be able to assign people they're seeing currently as part of their program. I just want to clarify that.
You know, you're still going to have some staff there, and there's going to be, according to your testimony, there are going to be staff people present there on and off during the whole day. It didn't give any number, but besides the manager.
We have, you know, we don't want to put up a building and then not allow ourselves to come in and see how it's running. So, yeah, we will definitely be having people coming in at various times throughout. Our in response to the live-in manager, I mean, for a building this size, we would do that regardless of the population. We just think that we want to have a site presence and it makes for better property management.
But these are going to be counselors, I presume.
No. This will be a property management function, so it won't be somebody who's a professional counselor.
So your staff that's going to be there on and off during the course of the day, or painters, or whatever the case may be?
It'll be somebody with a property management background, not a professional therapist, psychologist, or anybody trained in that profession. And as well as our own staff that will be attending, again, it will be building management people for operations purposes. It's not our profession. We don't have any professionals on staff. We rely on the third-party nonprofit providers to provide any assistance to the tenants on an individual basis.
You know, your last request, you said the use of this building does not constitute a special use. You wanted a text amendment. You didn't get it. Our zoning code, under health care and social assistance uses, a special use is required. This type of use is not listed in the R zone because it's not permitted in the R zone. The fact that social services is not listed, you know, it means they're not allowed. I got to refer to chapter 19.10.020, similar use interpretation. The Village of Wheeling has the right to interpret this use and it is a use. You can't say it's just an apartment building. With all the other activities that you've mentioned that you do there, it is a use. It's a specific type of activity, whether or not you're going to do counseling there. I highly believe that you're not going to be doing that. You won't be visiting these people in their apartments and giving them help.
Well, actually, we just have to disagree with you on that, because the use is an R4 multifamily use, and we didn't ask for a special use previously. What we asked for was an amendment to your code to allow, as an accessory use in a residential building, that there be supportive services. This has never come before this board as a special use. No. This is an apartment building use, and the reality is that in a sense what you're suggesting is that when an individual, let's take for example someone who lives in an apartment building, and that individual's elderly and they have a nurse that comes to check on them periodically. That's a special use in Wheeling? Someone who has recently had surgery and has a need for someone to come in and assist them with daily activities or potentially with therapy, that's a special use in Wheeling? That happens in every apartment building. These are accessory uses to apartment buildings. It seems that the only difference that you're suggesting is that when a person is disabled, that somehow that person's needs rises to the level of it being a special use. These are individuals who must be able to live independently. Notwithstanding all of what you've heard from a number of people, you have to rely on your staff and you have to rely on our testimony before your plan commission at many hearings. These are people who have to be able to live independently. If they can't live independently, they can't live in this building. They have to be someone who, frankly, is living in an apartment building right now. That's what they're doing. These people are, these are not people who are institutionalized now. These are people who are living in independent apartment buildings. And this development provides affordable, clean, new housing for those individuals. But it's really, the distinctions that you're raising, to the extent that they were factual to our development, I might agree with you, but they're not.
Now, one statement, and I will move on. You refer to people having help come in their apartment because they are recovering or recuperating or need therapy. That's a one instance. You got 50 apartments here that are all being used for the same fact. The people who need some kind of help are all living there. And if that doesn't constitute a special use. Anyway,
the use of the service is not compulsory for the tenants. They're in individual leases, and they're, like any other tenant with a lease, they're allowed to invite people into their units as visitors. If those visitors are disruptive, of course, to the rest of the tenants, then we wouldn't allow repeated visits.
Well, I thought part of the criteria was that your group, Phil Haven, was going to, these people were being brought there for specific purposes. In other words, anybody can go there and rent.
If they income qualify and they have a disability.
So, in other words, there's no limitation to how many the Election Brothers and Kenneth Young group can put in there, or.
Well, it's the same uses codes, like we couldn't overcrowd the apartments like any other landlord couldn't. So.
Anyways, there's one other thing. During your testimony on a prior docket, you mentioned that the reason you did not need all the parking was that only a small percentage of residents have cars. Now you're telling us your staff will organize carpools to transport the majority of the residents as needed. Because, there is a transportation problem there. Plus you'll have a van that the live-in manager, staff member, or whoever can drive folks around to their appointments. This means taking people to doctor's appointments, churches, shopping, recreation, whatever their needs might be. You're going to have somebody there to take them around. That bus service, don't even mention it because it's literally non-existent as a help to that building. It'll take you to specific places, and how many people have to go to places that live along, are lucky enough to be going someplace that lives along that route, are the only ones that are going to be able to use it. It doesn't run at night, it doesn't run on weekends. That means that 70% of the people that do not work, as per your testimony, that live here, or approximately 65 to 70 people minimum without cars will need rides day and night. You know, and the few that can get to their destination and home by bus are the lucky ones. You know, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. Sunday morning, how many of your clients are going to go to church? How many people are you going to be able to take them to church in a van?
So you're suggesting that the van is insufficient and that public transportation is insufficient?
That in essence, this is the wrong place for this project. Not against the help that you can provide. I'm all for it. Find something that'll be a little bit more convenient, like you did in Mount Prospect. How ideal. Right smack in the middle of a shopping area with restaurants, a clinic on the first floor. Everything anybody could ever need is within walking distance. You say they have shopping. It's 3.5, 4 blocks away. How are they going to get there in the wintertime? You know, it just, this is wrong, wrong, wrong. I'm sorry. And I cannot support it. Thank you.
We need to go forward, please. Thank you. Trustee Hein.
Thank you. You folks have been here for quite a long time with this project. You know, everybody on this board took an oath, and they put their hand up and they swore that they would uphold the rules and regulations and the ordinances of the Village of Wheeling. And one of the items that says there is a definition for social services. And if I were a developer and I was looking to put in a social service business, I would be looking for a definition to help me along. And this particular definition explicitly says, and I guess you're not agreeing with our definition of social services, otherwise you wouldn't be here just trying to take an R4 zoning and make it into something that it's not. To just piggyback on what Mr. Trustee Brady just said, I don't think anybody on this board is against this type of a development, but it's got to be in the right place. Because after you leave, we have to take and provide the services to these people. I am not in a position to be able to determine to what degree of medical care they need, and nor do you expect that of me, okay? But what you do expect of me is to provide an area for you to be comfortable and your residents to be comfortable. That's why we put in the rule and the definition of social services. So I'm going to read it into the record, verbatim, what social services mean in this community, not in Arlington Heights, not in Mount Prospect or any other community. I'm reading out of our text in our ordinance, and it says, the definition of social services, social service facilities means a facility operated by an organization which provides services such as training, counseling, health, or distribution of food or clothing. This term includes but is not limited to a facility offering life skills, training, substance abuse, counseling, housing services, or a neighborhood recovery center. This term does not include an emergency residential shelter. A social service facility is currently allowed as a special use in the following zoning districts: B1, B3, MC, MXC, MXT, and MX1. It is not allowed in an R4 district, period.
And
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
May we speak to that?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. We don't disagree with that, so I'm not sure where the issue is, but we've stated it several times. We're not asking you for a special use for a social service facility. Your staff has reviewed this project for the past 6-7 months. It has never suggested or presented this to the Plan Commission or to you as a social service facility. If one were to put a social service facility at this location in Hines, they would need a zoning change because it wouldn't be permitted. Similarly, I suppose if we wanted to put a Home Depot there, we'd probably need a change in zoning. But I would hope you would agree that a multiple family dwelling building is permitted in an R4 district. And on that, assuming we agree, then I don't know that we have anything to disagree about. That's the request, that's the site plan, that's the appearance that you've got in front of you. And to the extent that you desire to consider something else, I don't know what to tell you other than you need to look to your staff, you need to look to our testimony, and you need to accept the fact that all of the things that you just read in under that testimony are not occurring at this property. It might be, I don't know why you want to read that in, but it's just not occurring at this property. The fact is that disabled individuals who can live individually on their own live in apartment buildings. They live in these apartment buildings right now.
I'm not disputing that. I can't make that decision on those people. Let me just ask you one more question, if you mind, Madam President.
Are you finished? Did you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Trustee Hein.
If I were looking to purchase an apartment over there, and I have no disabilities or anything else, okay, I'm just looking for an R4 zoning, would I be able to live there? Would I be able to fill an application to move in?
You can certainly fill out an application, and you would. There'd be no problem with that. But in order,
you got to check my credit. We would check your credit.
But in order to be able to move into the facility, you would need to meet an income requirement, and you would need to meet a disability requirement.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if I may, just to follow up on that, there are certainly a number of apartment developments that have income limits. They're just on the other end, correct? I mean, there's certainly a number of people who wouldn't qualify to live in certain types of apartments because they wouldn't be able to afford that apartment or pass a credit check. And I don't think you would suggest that that is not a multifamily apartment building.
But you can't make that determination. Either can I.
I'm not sure I understand that, but my point is that the fact that there is a criteria for someone to be a resident of an apartment building does not make it not an apartment building. What makes it not an apartment building is if those services or other aspects of it were included, and they're not.
Thank you.
Trustee Agiris, you have questions?
Sure.
Statement?
Thank you. About 10 minutes ago, Councilor, you came before us here and said to remind us that we are here to approve one thing only, site plan, and actually the site plans and the appearance of that. But I can't help, for the last 7 months, especially at the Plan Commission meetings and the public hearings, that there was 10 hours of testimony, and I would say 95% of it was other than site plan and appearance approval. It was about what you were doing there and what you wanted there. And the testimony, hours of testimony from Ms. Berzak, and how the folks want the independence, which is wonderful. And what a great opportunity to be in an area there that would give them the independence to go to a store, to go to a park, to go walk up and down Hintz Road, to hop on a bus, to go somewhere. And that's all proven to be different. It's not about that. I take offense to that because 10 hours of testimony of what you folks were telling the Plan Commission, telling the residents and everybody around there is totally different now. What's different? Nothing's different. And to say that we didn't apply for a special use, I was at the Plan Commission meeting where the Plan Commission asked you to be a special use. And you all jumped out of your seats and said, no way. We found another loophole of doing a text amendment to satisfy and mold this thing into a puzzle that works for us. That's the problem. And I also take offense, and there was some testimony this evening, that how dare you, how dare the folks come in here and say that we're insensitive or not sensitive to the needs of folks out there, where we've recognized 5 zoning districts within our community that would welcome this project. Welcome it. But no, it's not about welcoming the project. It's about finding the right piece of property for a profit organization to make money. You know, do we welcome the residents? Absolutely. Do we still want them in this community? Absolutely. And I said it before. You guys have masterminded the emotions of this project. I've been around here 16 years. I've never seen this. And to be dictated and threatened regarding zoning and everything else, you know what? It's what we've worked hard for with our comprehensive plan, with our plan commission with the zoning ordinances and everything else. But to come up here and to contradict what you guys have been doing for the last 7 months, you do one thing, you say one thing, it's another thing. And to make the statement, you're only here for one thing, it's an R4, and legally we can do it, and you're only supposed to be talking about site plan approval and appearance approval, where you guys for many, many days and hours have talked about everything but. Sir, I'm sorry. You know what? It's not the right location. If you want to take care of the 50 renters of the units that you have there and give them something, a bang for their buck, to make them feel good, I'm telling you, look elsewhere. There are wonderful places in this community that would serve those residents wonderfully. Hintz Road is a safety issue. IDOT has recognized that. There is nothing there. The closest grocery store is almost a half a mile away. This is the problem. There's nothing there. What park? What library? Where are you going to walk to a library? What bus are you going to go to? Where are you going? What are these folks going to do? You stated in the testimony again, or Ms. Brezak stated, 70% of the folks there don't work. Well, how are you going to be entertained? Sit around and watch TV all day? Play video games? You want the folks to interact with the community. You want them to use the other taxing bodies, the libraries and the parks. How? They don't even drive. And to make the statement that, you know, we're asking for nothing is another problem that I have. You went through public hearing after public hearing, and you guys asked for variances. You guys asked for so many different text amendments to our zoning code. Well, if it was such a slam dunk, R4, site plan and appearance approval, then that should have happened 7 months ago. You made the issue of what you were looking for to meet the needs of all the players in your development. I'm sorry. To this day, my vote is still the same. And you know what? Because you've proven nothing different. And this thing before us today is no different than it was before us 2 months ago. I'm sorry.
Well, if we can speak to that.
Sure.
Certainly, to the extent you feel offended by anything we've done, we certainly apologize for that. Nobody intends to offend anybody on this body or frankly anyone in Wheeling. But what occurred in our original request, the reason why there was 10, 20, probably more than 20 hours of testimony, is that we requested a variation from 138 parking spaces down to, I believe, 52, no covered parking, and a text amendment to your code. And those are significant variations and significant requests. And in order to establish all the standards with respect to that, we needed to establish that we met those standards. I'm not sure why that is inappropriate to have those conversations when that's what a party's asking for. What we're presenting to you right now is a development that has 2.75 cars per unit per your code, has the covered parking required by your code, and doesn't have any accessory use on site that provides supportive services. So these are very different developments. You, as I stated to Trustee Hein, you obviously, I assume you absolutely believe that it's the same development. It's not. And I ask you to rely on your staff. Do you think that if it was the same development, your staff would process a site plan and appearance review? And I will tell you, if you were at the last Plan Commission meeting, that meeting I think went on for about an hour, hour and a half, because the only discussion was site plan and appearance review.
Then why wasn't it done prior?
Well, because...
Why wasn't it done prior? Why were you asking for the variances?
No argument.
I'm not arguing. I'm just asking the question. So now all of a sudden it's okay.
Well, I can tell you why.
You need to let them talk, Trustee, at your place.
It's a contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction.
Yeah,
we don't. I can tell you this. We're not going to park 138 cars at that site. I'm telling you that right now. But we're going to build 138 cars because that's what you're required. And from our perspective, we thought that was a mistake. We think that it's better to have the green space on the site and to frankly not spend the money on parking that isn't going to be used. That's why we asked for it. That's why we ask for it in these types of developments. It is not uncommon in many communities that there are different parking standards for different types of residential use. So, that's why we asked for it. we're going to build it because we want to build a building that complies with your zoning code. We wanted to provide case management on site. We think that's a good idea. We don't think it's a bad idea. We don't think that it changes this residential use. There are accessory uses in every apartment building that is ever built. Go down into Chicago on Lakeshore Drive, and you can have a concierge buy you tickets to a play. You can go and work out in a club. There's probably a business center inside. There are accessory uses which are available to the residents of a building. We wanted to provide that. We do it in other places without any change to your code. Your staff felt we needed a change to your code. We agreed with that. That's why we did those things. But
go ahead, I'm sorry.
But the point is that we were not successful with that. Obviously, we weren't. We were here before you, and you didn't approve any of those things, the variations or the request for the on-site. So we're providing you with what is permitted under your code. It is very different, and we can keep saying it over and over again, but it is very different.
And because it's very, very different, that's why I believe truly that the location itself is not the right location. And the Village of Wheeling has recognized the need and the different of the R4 that would welcome it anywhere else in town that we've recognized.
But it certainly was appropriate for this board to approve a residential development with more units previously. I mean, Hines Road hasn't gotten worse in the last year, has it? Has it suddenly become the most dangerous
yeah, but now
road
you're not
in
talking
town?
really an R4 there. You're really not. You're talking, in my opinion, different. And just in closing, don't make the argument that if I own a condo on Lakeshore Drive or have an apartment there and I break my leg and I have a nurse come in to give me therapy, that's supportive services, because it's not. Okay? The folks that are coming into these units over here knowingly know that the support services and social services are going to be offered to them. If I live on Lakeshore Drive, 1100 Lakeshore Drive, guess what? I can afford to pay my own. These folks know that that's going to be that's their concierge that they're going to have. So it's not apples to apples there. And don't make that, because I've had family that's had to have rehab and had to get nurses in there and had to pay for it. And not the whole building was offered that. So that's all I have.
Trustee Lang.
Thank you. Everything I've heard tonight points to, and in the previous meetings, but this is a special use. You just mentioned health clubs in apartment buildings in downtown. Those are special uses. That would be, if something came before us with a health club attached to it, that would be a special use.
And just to clarify, what I mean is the health club, a workout facility that's only permitted for the residents. I'm not talking about a third-party provided health facility.
Either way, special use. You came here tonight and eliminated the office space, but you simply now call it an apartment, because services will still be provided. Similar services from what that office was going to provide is now going to be provided out of that apartment space.
That's not true. We won't be providing, I want to be clear because several people have mentioned it, we will not be providing any services in an organized fashion on site. If an individual, like any other person in their apartment, desires to call a social service caseworker or manager or psychologist or anybody into their own unit, they have a lease for that apartment, and we are not allowed to restrict them or any visitor other than visitors who are detriment to the building.
Okay, there's sworn testimony at the Plan Commission meeting that there will be services on site.
That's before we made the change. That's what we're saying.
It was in the most recent meeting of the Plan Commission.
June 14th.
Yes.
No.
It's here. So, anyway, not to belabor this anymore, there are locations that are proper for this throughout Wheeling. This just simply does not fit the zoning that you're asking for. So.
Do we have anything else? Trustee Vogel.
I have to agree with everything that's been said here on this dais tonight. There are quotes in here. There is sworn testimony on June 14th, and one of them says, Ms. Burzak said property management, leasing staff, and case managers will still be present in the building. period. They're going to be there. So whether it's in an office or in an apartment, they're in the building. That to me constitutes special use. The fact that you have to qualify to be accepted as a resident, that I never did understand. What qualifies other than income? Are they recommended by a physician? Are they recommended by the hospital, by Alexian Brothers? What's the qualifications?
The tenants will be have to have a disability, and it's open to the full variety of disabilities, and they would self-identify as having that disability.
So it's any disability?
That's right.
Okay. Again, that makes me believe this is a special use. And based on all the facts presented tonight and based on the June 14th meeting, I still feel that it's a special use.
Again, just to speak to that, and we again ask you to to rely on your staff if you don't rely on us.
We're relying. Excuse me, 1 second. We're relying on your sworn testimony.
Well, and again, I don't have what you're reading in front of me, and I don't have total recall as to what was said at that meeting. But I do agree with you that what was said is that a case manager certainly could come into that building, but that case manager will go into somebody's apartment that's the person invites them into. So that is very different than the proposal that we had before previously. And if either our testimony was unclear or the record's unclear, that's what we had presented. And these are very different things. These are not, these are distinctions that have meaning. And it's obvious that for some reason they don't have that meaning to you, but again, we've now been in this community for 7 months, and I believe every staff report has indicated as the proposed use, multifamily apartment building. And in every community I've ever been in, when staff presents something and brings it to their various bodies, I would assume they would raise the fact that it's not a multifamily apartment building. So there's obviously something in our application and in our presentation that has convinced Wheeling that we are an apartment building. But obviously you're hearing from a number of people at a public hearing, and I understand this is a very emotional and sensitive issue for people, but that shouldn't affect this body. And, you know, I certainly I hear what you're saying, so I mean, I'm not, I obviously have not convinced you that, you know, this is an independent apartment building, but that's exactly what it is. And the only difference is that the people who live in it will be independent people with disabilities. That's the only difference.
I'm done.
Anything else?
I would just say, obviously, we could talk about this all night long, and you'll have your side, we'll have our side, they'll have their side. I think to not belabor this any longer, we should just put this thing to a vote.
Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Ajira, second by Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
No.
Trustee Brady.
No.
Trustee Ajira.
No.
Trustee Vogel.
No.
Trustee Hein.
No.
Trustee Heer.
No.
President Avascado.
Yes.
Thank you.
Where do we get the bill?
Item 13C, ordinance granting special use site plan and appearance approval for an indoor sports and recreation facility in an existing industrial building at 333 Ellis Street, docket number 20128.
Mr. Janik.
The petitioners are requesting approval.
Could we take 2 minutes so those of you that would like to leave, please do so we continue our meeting. Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Take a 5-minute break.
When is this going to court?
Take a break.
Take
Jim,
5.
When's it going to court?
Oh, let's take 5. We take 5? You take 5?
No, you're not going to bed.
I go to the bathroom. What's your bait?
I don't have a cup.
We will recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Motion to recess for 5 minutes. Motion by trustee Juris. at 8:31. Do we need a
Yes.
motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Adira, second by trustee Lang. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And now may we, Mr. Janik?
Yes, the petitioner is requesting approval of a special use at the subject building, which is on Alice Street. It's a vacant 23,000 square foot building. Petitioner is currently operating his business on Palatine Road, and he would like to operate it in this building. It's a special use for gymnastics, recreational use. It's mostly for younger kids. Most of the operations are at nighttime from 5:30 on. That's it.
Motion to approve.
Do we have any questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
by trustee Adira, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
President Avascado?
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
And have fun over there with the sports and the recreation. That was easy.
Item 13D is two ordinance regarding amendments to Walmart interior floor plan. D1 is ordinance repealing ordinance number 4434, which granted a special use to allow packaged liquor sales within the existing Walmart store, 1455 Lake Cook Road, docket number 2009-2.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Can somebody explain
Yes,
very quickly?
I figured you were going to. Do we have a question? I do have a motion, but
Second.
we'd like if you just explain why we're doing that with the increase in the store.
I can answer that.
Mr. Janik.
Due to the fact that Walmart has added on to their building and changed their interior floor plan, a repeal of the previous ordinances is required to insert the new floor plan and location of, for instance, Subway. Subway moved from the very southern corner of the property more toward the middle of it, north, in other words. And then the grocery store that was added, the display of alcohol was located in is now located in a different location. It's located in the grocery store to the west. So these two ordinances reflect those changes.
Thank you.
We have a motion by trustee Adira.
Second.
Second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
President Avascado?
Yes.
Item 13D2, ordinance repealing ordinance number 2674, which granted a special use to allow a restaurant within a Walmart store, 1455 Lake Cook Road, docket number 1990-19B.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Brady. Second by trustee Hein. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
President Avascado?
Yes, tell Mr. Fox he doesn't have to worry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It looks
Thank
nice,
you.
too.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Very, very nice job. Thanks for covering up that split face block too on the front. First thing I noticed.
Repealing. Item 13E, ordinance allowing video gaming within the Village of Wheeling.
Mr. Ferrillo, please.
Thank you, President Abiscato. Before you is an amendment to the Village Code to go back. In 2009, the Illinois State Legislature passed the Video Gaming Act, and the statute read that unless you opted out of gaming, you were in as a community. Wheeling, as well as several others, decided not to opt out. Recently, as of about March or April, the State Gaming Board found that in addition to declining to opt out, if you had an old ordinance on your books that prohibited gaming, which we have had here for over 20-some years, maybe 25 years, you also had to amend your ordinance to allow gaming under the Video Gaming Act. So this is a cleanup that also states that gaming is allowed in the village if it's done pursuant to the Illinois Video Gaming Act. So that's one component of this ordinance. The other component of this ordinance is to create an annual fee
for the terminals. The State Gaming Board is beginning to license establishments for video gaming terminals. This ordinance creates a fee for the first terminal of $250 annually. The additional terminals are to be charged $50 each. There can be no more than 5 per establishment. So if there's 5 in an establishment, you're looking at about $450 per establishment per year as a municipal fee. Any questions I can answer?
Is there any other dollars that the village would get from the video gaming that we would allow in the village?
Oh, definitely. Pursuant to the state statute,
yes,
there will be money flowing back to the village as well as other communities that have not opted out. You'll get a share of the gaming proceeds.
Thank you. Trustee Lang, you had a question?
Yes. Has the state finalized everything on this yet? We can, if this is approved tonight, how soon will certain businesses in Wheeling be allowed to?
The state has licensed, as of about 2 weeks ago, licensed close to 30 establishments statewide. So it's just beginning. But distributors, manufacturers have been licensed. We're about 60 days away. I think we'll notify the State Gaming Board that this has been done. And then once our establishments submit applications, I had spoken to somebody at the State Gaming Board, probably about 60 days to process an application.
Great. Question?
Thank you. Trustee Agiris.
Thank you. How fast will our organization here have those applications ready?
Well, they can get them from, for the fee? You're talking about for the 250? That's simple, but the application to the state is ready. That's out there already. We don't have to prepare that application.
Okay.
We simply need to have an application in order to be, I don't want to call it a license because we're not licensing, but we're approving the use in each facility. So we'll be ready for that, but the state application is the main application that needs to be filled out, and that's out there.
But my question is, when will we be ready?
We can create anything necessary this week. That's not a problem.
That was the question.
Very, very straightforward.
All right, thanks. So move.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Agiris, second by Trustee Hein. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Agiris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
President Abiscato?
Yes. And we have official communication, Mr. Fondelis.
Thank you, Madam President. Now that the second installment of the property tax bills have gone out, we thought it would be wise to do something that we have established a couple of years ago, just a public service kind of announcement to walk through the tax bill and address some of the concerns that we hear repeated every year as far as understanding your tax bill. So I would ask Finance Director Monchain to come up. He has a very short PowerPoint presentation, again, to go over some of the highlights of the questions that we receive calls about on an annual basis. And using for the purposes of this discussion is an actual tax bill of one of the trustees up here today, so that you can understand as Michael walks through this that this is certainly a real life example. So, Director Monchain.
Thank you. As the village manager indicated, I wanted to just try to address some of the questions that come up on an annual basis when the property tax bills in Cook County are delivered. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular slide because you've seen it before. When we talked about the property tax levy last year, I put up from 2010 two tax bills. These are the details from two single-family homes in Wheeling, and I called them single-family home A and B. And the bottom line for this slide is that you have two homes that are very similar in terms of assessed value and total tax bill, but they had very different outcomes in terms of their taxes. In the case of single-family home A, this individual's tax bill went up almost $1,500 from the prior year. In the case of single-family home B, it went down $83. In 2010, the village approved an increase to its tax levy of 5.25%. But despite that, the bottom line shows that in the case of A, the village's share went up $176, but in B it went up only $15, a difference of 26% and 1.64%. And the point of this is that it wasn't really the increase in the tax levy that drove the difference. It was the difference in assessments for the two homes. And so that, more than anything, is a big factor in determining what your tax bill is, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. As you all know, in 2011, the village did not increase its property tax levy, so it was exactly the same as 2010, $10,604,248. This is the example of the tax bill that the village manager was referring to earlier. This is from one of our trustees' homes, and it shows that in 2011 and 2010, the EAV for this particular home was $34,535. It did not change. Again, the tax levy remained the same from the prior year, but the amount that this particular individual has to pay to the Village of Wheeling changed significantly from $838 in 2010 to $961 in 2011, despite the fact that there was no increase in the village's tax levy. So the question that we often get is, why am I paying more taxes to the village if there was no increase in the village's tax levy? And that's because of changes in the EAV from home to home or business to business, and the shifting of the tax burden that occurs when that happens. I have an example that it's a very simple example to try to demonstrate how that can happen. And so we have a city called the city of Svandilisville, and it's a beautiful city with fountains and parks, and it consists of 4 homes and 2 businesses. The entire city consists of 4 homes and 2 businesses. And it provides all of the services that you would expect a community to provide: police, fire, public works, and so forth. And it has an annual budget of $100,000, just to keep things simple. So each year, the village levies $100,000 in property taxes. It has no other sources of revenue like we do, just property tax. And there are no other taxing districts for simplification purposes. And then finally, of course, they have a great finance director.
Yes.
Now, what happens is that the first year that the city of Svandilisville comes into an existence, we were calling tax year 1. It hasn't existed before this. And of course, the village levies $100,000 because that's what it needs to provide the services that it provides. And the way that that tax levy is divvied up is each homeowner pays an even amount of $10,000, and the 2 businesses pay $30,000 each. Nice and simple. But in tax year 2, there's a recession, and there's a reassessment as well. All of the properties are reassessed 20% lower except for homeowner 1, whose assessment drops 10%. So again, the village levies $100,000. It doesn't need to increase the tax levy at all, so it's the same as the prior year. But the outcome is very different. In the case of homeowner 1, his or her tax bill goes up 11.1% to $11,111. Homeowners 2, 3, and 4 see decreases in their tax bills, and the businesses see a decrease as well. But the total, the bottom line that the the city receives is still $100,000. How it's collected is very different because of the difference in how the properties in the city were assessed. Now, I have the same scenario, but I've changed things in year 2. In year 2, there's a recession, but this time, business 2 closes. And what this is meant to demonstrate, and again, the village levy is $100,000, but what this is meant to demonstrate is what can happen when a business or a group of businesses go out of business and the impact that it has on the remaining residents and businesses in the community. In this case, the village still needs to collect $100,000 because even though it has 1 fewer business in town, it still needs to provide the same police, fire, and public works services and so forth as it did before. But the impact on the remaining homeowners and business owners is dramatic. Their tax bills go up 42% for the homeowners as well as the business. And so what happens next? Well, the village president and the trustees, they get a lot of angry phone calls and other forms of communication. And people want to know why they raised their taxes. But as you all know, they didn't. They approved the same levy as they did before. And then the finance director gets the same type of communication, but nobody really cares about that. And so what does this prove? Well, there's a shift in tax burden that occurs when properties are reassessed, or when businesses go out of business, or when assessment appeals are granted, and so forth. And that can produce very different results, even though there's no increase in taxes. And that the village can levy no increase, or even a decrease in its tax levy, and individual homeowners or businesses can end up paying more or even less to the village. And then finally, I think this demonstrates that economic development is very important, because if we are able to get new businesses in our community, that lessens the tax burden for all of the existing homeowners and businesses. Again, the assessed value of a home or business can go down, and the amount that an individual taxpayer pays can still go up. And I think we also have to keep in mind, and I think a lot of people forget about this, is that unlike a private business, a municipality can only cut services so much. It still has to continue to provide the basic services that it's provided before. So in the example of a company that makes toasters, they can reduce the number of toasters they make. They might even be able to reduce their staff. In a municipality like Wheeling, we've done that. Over the last few years, as a result of the recession, we have eliminated programs, services, and through and personnel as well. But at the end of the day, we still have to provide certain services that are essential to the community. And some would argue that in a recession, those services are even more important than they were before. And one last point I want to make, and I'll answer any questions you might have, is some residents received high tax bills this year because they failed to apply for the homeowner or senior citizen exemption. There's other exemptions as well. The senior citizen exemption in particular needs to be, you have to apply for that every year. And I know that at the senior center that's been a big issue. If anybody has questions about that and wants to apply for those exemptions, they should call the Wheeling Township Assessor for more information. I have the phone number up there, 847-259-1515, in case they have questions about exemptions. And that's essentially it.
Question?
Trustee Jersey.
Thanks. Your illustration, Michael, business 2 went out of business. And everybody else had the 4 houses and 1 business had to pick up the slack. I guess the clear question I'm looking at is this. Is that based on all the taxing bodies keeping their levy the same? Or do we even know if levies of other taxing bodies are asking for increases on an annual basis over and above businesses that are a loss?
Well, your tax bill can go up because other taxing districts increase their levy. In this example, I was just trying to focus on what the Village of Wheeling is doing. And as you know, if the Village of Wheeling does not increase its levy, and if you had a scenario where the Village of Wheeling did not increase its levy and everyone's assessed value stayed the same, you'd see no change in your tax bill. But where the assessed value changes and the levy remains the same, you will see differences in what each person pays to the village.
Explain the levy. That $10,600,000 is a figure that we've come up with to run the services in the community here. But what does that mean exactly? Explain what levy means to the folks.
A levy is basically just the dollar amount of taxes that we have asked Cook County to collect on our behalf so that we can, for the most part, pay our general operating expenses.
Okay. The other part of that question is this. We have 5 TIF districts in this community. Does that levy dollars come from those TIFs as well, or are they excluded, the TIF districts, and they are coming from non-TIF districts?
They come from the TIF districts to the extent that the base is taxed, but anything that is, anytime there's an increase in the EAV of a TIF district, that increase, the taxes that are generated from that increase go into a special taxing district fund. So in other words, when we levy $10,600,000, the TIF districts really have no impact on that.
Right.
That's
so we got to depend on those who are not in the TIF, basically, like the industrial park and stuff like that, empty buildings, factories, what have you, to get them back on the tax rolls and be conscious of taking things that aren't in the TIF district and non-for-profit, tax-exempt status, I'm sorry to say churches, stuff like that, that don't pay into taxes are coming off of tax rolls that once did pay taxes.
And when you have those types of organizations that come up, you pay for that. Yeah. You know, you pick up the burden, and that was the point I was trying to make, is this is all about tax burden and who pays it and who doesn't. Now, when those TIF districts expire and all of those property, all of that increment is no longer going to the TIF district fund, that will be a great benefit to the community because everybody will benefit by the increase.
There's a good chance the taxes could go down once,
Absolutely.
like the Crossroads TIF expires in a few years.
You look at the Crossroads TIF as a great example. The base EAV of the Crossroads TIF is about $12 million. The current EAV is 50. Around 50.
50, yeah.
Now, when you have $38 million that is added to the equalized assessed value of the entire community, that's going to benefit everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Good illustration.
Nice job, Michael.
Thank you.
We have approval of the bills, June 14th.
Madam President, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
I'd like to know a status update on the Dunkin' Donuts. It seems like they've stopped. Everything's stopped on that project, and we just gave them some assistance.
I don't have a really good answer for you. I think that they are still between the contractor, between the owner, the leasee, Dunkin' Donuts Corporation, local corporation, and the contractor relative to the site and how much work they had to do. We call them, we ask them what's going on, and they just recently started working again. But there has been lag times. They need to do some work out there. They need to go across Dundee Road and abandon some water lines that we have. I think they're just still trying to get a grip on how much work they have to get done out there.
Okay, thank you.
We have approval of bills of June 14th, June 14th and June 11th. Do I have a motion?
Second.
And who was the motion by?
I did.
Gina Ray.
Motion by Trustee Adira, second by Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Adjuris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
President Avascado?
Yes. Board will go into executive session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or employees of the Village of Wheeling. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Here, second by Trustee Hein. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Adjuris?
Yes.
Yeah.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
President Avascado?
Thank you. Yes. And the board will go into executive session at 9 o'clock.